FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is March 7th, 2017. Well, you know that the old models of retirement, if they're not dead and buried, they will be very soon. I mean, look at Dallas. The fire policeman's fund is exhausted. I mean, this is what's happening all over the country, all over the Western world. States' pension plans will be broke if they're not already. Illinois, Connecticut, New York, even though they claim theirs is fully funded, is a lie. CalPERS, they were trying to silence various dissenting members. CalPERS was trying to silence dissenting members because of stupid political investments they'd made in alternative energy and other idiotic investments. I mean, this is the model here. Very few of you boomers out there have saved adequately. Probably I don't have enough money either. You're counting on Social Security. You better count again, because Social Security might pay you out all the money they promise, but who knows what that money will be worth. Well, Aaron Clarey is a problem solver. That's why you call yourself Captain Capitalism, and he's back with a solution. Welcome back, Aaron.
Hi, Kerry. Thanks for having me.
As always. So you're writing a book about retirement, and you believe it's going to be a revolutionary book.
Well, it is. I don't believe it will be a revolutionary book, but the problem, as you well know, is whether society will accept it, because we could sell lies all day. Oprah got rewarded with billions of dollars in net worth for telling women lies for 20 and 30 years.
Wait,
because
Oprah
it's
lied?
an easy sell.
Oprah lied?
If you want to give people harsh medicine, they don't really accept it that well. So it is revolutionary, and it will work. It's very simple. I'm using Occam's razor. It's quite simple, actually. But whether the sheeple and the people accept it and actually implement it and exercise on it, that's going to be another matter.
Yeah, well, that's always the problem. You can lead a horse to water, right?
Right. And so that's kind of been the wall I've ran into in many aspects of my life, is getting people to take action on things instead of just complain about it.
Yeah. Well, we've known these problems existed for many years, Aaron, and basically done nothing about them. But pretty much the problem is becoming inescapable, and you're getting to the point where you have to do something. So what's your solution here?
Well, the solution is, it's kind of analogous to how we looked at defined benefits becoming infeasible retirement plans and switching to defined contributions. And it's the same thing when I'm looking at, okay, the system that we have in terms of 401ks, IRAs, and 457, stuff like that, that is also becoming unfeasible, just simply because it doesn't work. People are not saving up enough money. And the first generation to be fully exercised under this official and government ordained retirement program are the baby boomers. And this is you guys are the mature ones of the generation. You guys, I know some of the World War II generation people are still alive, but you guys are the adults. You are the wise elderly sages of the United States. And even the baby boomers, the most responsible generation alive today in the United States, only at best a third of them have adequate savings for retirement of this 401k IRA thing. And the reason why they just don't save up enough. And so if you look at that, you say, okay, this is not feasible anymore. Just like defined benefits was no longer feasible, this is obviously not going to work. Heaven help you if you think the millennials and Gen X are going to be as responsible. So we got to come up with something completely different. And what I'm saying is, instead I'm focusing on something that we don't control, which is the increase in the stock price, because that's basically the increase in the stock market. That's basically what everybody is pinning their hopes on, is capital gains. Let us look at something that is 100% under our control, and that is spending. And so you fine, go ahead, invest in an IRA, 401k, fine, go ahead, do the Roth, get your tax benefits. But what is 100% under your control is your spending. So it's kind of you're going back to a traditionalism where you refocus on the family budget, you spend within your means, and you don't rely on this this utopian puppies and unicorns and flowers and chocolates and wiener dogs dream of forever increasing stock prices and capital gains to pay for your retirement. And so it looks like, okay, spend less than you make, eliminate the need for material desires, frugality, minimalism, etc., Spartan living. And if you can minimize that, then it makes your retirement not only infinitely easier, but actually feasible and possible.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, so how do you get the discipline? Where do you get it from?
Well, the trick is this. You have to realize there's a lot, and people will think, oh, this is going to be a book about numbers and finance and personal budgeting. I know that's not the hurdle. As you and I know, the hurdle is always psychological. You could tell someone, don't major in worthless stuff. You could tell someone, don't date that bad boy over there. People are going to do what they're going to do because of emotion, psychology, and mentality. And that's where this book targets and has the focus. It tries to train the human brain, explain to the human brain what is truly important in life. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again because it's going to benefit millions of people, and the world would lose 95% of its problems if it would figure this out, is the number one important thing in life is other human beings. And if you think about it, it makes sense because human beings they're infinite, they're dynamic, they're constantly changing. You can have the biggest screen TV you want. You can have your Ferrari. Well, those are things, and they don't provide response. They don't provide interaction. They're fun, but they don't provide the mental stimulation that you need. And that's where, your friends will, your spouse will, your loved ones will, your colleagues will. So if you focus your effort in your life and you base it around human beings, loved ones in your life, not only are you going to have a more rewarding life, intellectually stimulating, et cetera, but the great things about humans and friends is they're free. They don't cost you. Like my buddy Ken, he, fine, occasionally I'll buy him a cigar, or maybe, I'll spring the bill for food. But in the grand scheme of things, my buddy Ken is free. My girlfriend, even though I lavish her with many gifts, I spoil her rotten, Carrie. I'm almost.
There's your first mistake.
I spoil her.
There's your first mistake, Aaron.
But if I don't have to, she appreciates it. But in the grand, she loves me for me. We go out running and hiking.
Teasing, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, the funnest time we ever had was when she was laid off during the Great Recession, and all we did was stay at this cheap, crappy hotel in Hot Springs, South Dakota, in the Badlands and the Black Hills, and we just hiked and biked for the entire summer. And I don't even think we spent more than $1,500 in those 3 months. Mm-hmm. And so if you can get people to realize that it's humans that matter the most and really, really incorporate it into their psyche, really incorporate it into their brain to make it not only a principle they understand, but one that they live by and becomes part of them, mm-hmm. the rest of the dominoes fall into place where you don't have an incentive to buy a Ferrari. You don't have an incentive to buy your wife expensive jewelry. Your wife doesn't have an incentive to demand finances from you. She just loves you for who you are. You don't care if you have a Ferrari. You're just going to hang out with your buddies in your regular old putt, Chevy truck, right, and go have cigars. And so if you can attack the human psychology to spend, consume, and basically inoculate it, vaccinate it with the love for their fellow human being and the appreciation, the prioritizing of their fellow man in the number one position in their life, the incentive to spend yourself into debt and all these financial problems that come from consumption go away.
Yeah, I always thought money couldn't buy happiness, but it would do till the real thing came along.
Well, it's true. Money does help. It's nice when you're not starving and you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep the next night. But once you get past that kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you get onto the second or third, and you know where your next meal is coming from, and you have a check, and you know the saber-toothed tigers are not going to eat you. You can then move on to your fellow human being. But it's kind of sad. All of human existence, and not all, but the vast majority, you look back, the 2 million years of human evolution, right. The human brain, and this is what the book is fighting, is survival. Because we're very lucky. In this world, we're very lucky today because we have so much economic wealth and production. We don't worry about where our food is coming from. We don't worry about getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers. So our brains have been allowed to kind of move on to more loftier things like the meaning of life, what's important, social interaction, stuff like that. Although, even though this is a relatively new thing, say the past 100 years with industrial revolution and stuff like that, that doesn't mean our brain for the past 1.99999 million years has really changed or evolutionized all that much. So we're still in this psychology of, I could die at any moment. I got to eat. You look at people, they're obese, not because necessarily they don't know that being fat and obese is bad for them. It's just like a dog. A dog will eat because it doesn't know where its next meal is coming from, because that's what the vast majority of its evolutionary experience has been. Mm-hmm. So if we can, it's fighting this 2 million years of evolution to inoculate it, to moot it, so that we could go ahead and make instead of relying on a consumption or forever perpetuating increasing asset prices, we instead control our spending and enjoy much happier, more rewarding lives with our friends and families and loved ones.
Sounds like going back to the 50s to like Leave It to Beaver kind of existence.
Yeah, I know everyone likes to pick on that, but I would have traded my life in for something like that. Nuclear family, where
right.
Mom and Dad are around. That would be nice, but we eschew that. We shame it nowadays because, boy, that war in June, boy, being able to live on one income and stable family and happy, well-reared children. Who wants any of that? That's not the feminist ideology.
Yeah, hey, I agree with you. There's things more important than money. It's not going to make you happy. And, right, it can't buy the important things in life. So, yeah. And this consumerism is just a dead end that is just going to really just screw up your life.
Oh, and I've seen it firsthand. Part of what inspired this book is, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, but many years ago, we have the Mayo Clinic out here in Minnesota.
Sure.
Rochester, Minnesota, and a lot of the rich people from overseas, disproportionately Arab sheiks and emirates and princes and all those guys, they come over. Well, if they're not vitally important, the CIA or the FBI or whoever does not send protection. And there's actually thousands of princes in Saudi Arabia. Well, one of these guys came over, but still wanted protection, but wasn't a big enough wig to get the FBI or whoever protects these people. So we had to work security protecting one of these Saudi princes while he was getting health work done down at the Mayo Clinic. And you have never seen such a display of wealth. It was one guy, he brought 120 people in his entourage. There was a convoy of Mercedes. He insisted, he rented out all the Mercedes that was, 2013 or newer. I think it was 2014. He insisted that everybody ride in the top. So we had people driving Mercedes from California because he just sopped up all the demand for rental cars, private plane, all this display of wealth. And these people were not brain dead, but they had no spirit in their eyes. The princes and the wives, multiple wives, and the children, they were just like zombies because they had all the money in the world. And with having all that money in the world, you lose what actually has value. If you have infinite wealth, you lose the ability to judge what's important, what has value. And I cannot speak to their personal relationships, but I can tell you, money doesn't make you happy. It makes you happy if you're poor, because then you don't have to worry about, saber-toothed tigers and where your next meal is coming from. But after a while, it really is human interaction that matters the most. So you could go ahead and try and buy the fanciest cars, get the fanciest clothes. In the end, that is not a solution, and you're just going to be miserable. And what's worse, because of the way we brainwash people and bring them up, you're not going to know why. You're going to think that money is the most important thing. You're going to think things and clothes are the most important thing. Heaven help us. We got a perfect example with your generation, certainly my generation. Now I'm seeing it happen very much, but the millennials are going to find out too. These young women who swallowed whole that their career is the number one thing in life and not the fellow human being. And now you got these 50, 40-year-old gals. They're great reserve diversity directors at some nonprofit. And they're great lawyers. But boy, again, that same dull, soulless look in their eyes, the lack of happiness, the lack of joy, because there's no loving human beings in their life.
Yep, that's for sure. I couldn't agree with you more. So, So what's the first step on the road to recovery here, Aaron?
Well, the first step is I got to convert from the outline to writing the actual book. But the first, it's really a psychological one. So the argument I will be making in the first step is to simply show that what we're doing isn't working now. Like I mentioned before, only about a third of the baby boomers have adequately saved up for retirement. And that's the quote, most wisest, most responsible generation. There was that other study, what was it, a year ago, where about half the Americans, or I think maybe it was even 2/3 of Americans, have less than $1,000 in savings, and a fifth have nothing at all.
Yeah.
Let's just admit that what we're trying to do isn't working because the American people lack the responsibility to save and squirrel away money. So that's the first step, to admit that we have the problem. The second step is, and this is not going to be a lengthy book, it'll be more essay length. The next step is to explain the psychology behind the value of your fellow human being. What is the point and purpose in life? And try to deprogram people from their addiction, the psychological, genetic, Darwinistic addiction to things and stuff and material goods. And then we replace that with a love for your fellow human being, your children, your spouse, your friends, loved ones, etc. And then hopefully, I'm no neuroscientist, but hopefully once you deprogram someone out of materialism, they should then fill it with the next logical, obvious choice, and that is your fellow human being. And then after that, I theorize, I hope, I pray, people just stop spending money on crap they don't need. They don't get the brand new car. If, look, the car is financed, it's 0%. It's like, yeah, but you're still dropping $40,000 on this SUV. What's wrong with you? I need a $250,000 master's degree. I need a McMansion. Hopefully that all ends. Hopefully, in 10 years' time, my book goes on the New York Times bestseller list, as it's almost guaranteed it will, Kerry. People buy it, they consume it, they incorporate it. I'm sitting pretty with $1 billion, even though I probably won't use any of it because I myself am frugal and this is what I practice. But hope, and then, well, the U.S. economy would collapse because it's so consumer-based, but our savings rate would go up. And this would then initialize the start of a revolutionizing not only retirement planning, but the economy. But I will worry about that bridge when we get there. I'll just be happy if I get like 100,000 people to buy this book. I'll be really happy with that. And I'll be super ecstatic if only 10,000 people actually incorporate these principles and concepts into their life.
If you get 10 to do it, I think you're doing really, really well, Aaron. 10, you should be happy. Yeah. You call it a life. If you affect one person.
If I could get just 10,000 people to improve their lives, that's a good pat on the back for me, and I'll pour myself a nice little scotch in celebration.
Yeah, speaking of helping people to improve their lives, how's the consulting business doing?
The consulting business is very good. It was a little rough. I was vacationing for the past 2 months in the American Southwest, and so I had my mobile office with me, which is not as good in terms of like recording equipment and quality. So I was still able to do the consulting, and it's almost like they knew when I would go on an 8-hour road trip, do some hiking, climb some mountain, and then I'd come back and there'd be 12 new requests. It's almost they knew when I was not able to work. So, but I got back home about 5 days ago. I'm back in my regular studios. So I'm able to tread water and keep afloat, and hopefully I'll find some free time here to finish off this book.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. Well, how many books have you written so far?
Real one, 6. And this upcoming book will not be, I think it's going to be essay length. I don't think it'll be, anything lengthy. I think you got to break 100 pages to actually call it a book. But I've written 6, I think, around there.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's great.
And then there's like the best of blog where I back up my blog. Mm-hmm. And that's like what I think one of the books is 400 pages. The other one's 800.
Wow.
But I don't consider those books. I just consider that a backup of previous written works. Like a compendium. But yeah, I've written 6 real books, real adult books that you can stand by and proudly say those are books.
Right. Oh, cool. That's really great. Well, I just wrote my book, just finished it a few weeks back, Viral Podcasting, and it's up on the site there. Anybody can buy it. Hey, your site, people want to find out more, just tell us where to go.
The best site to go is my flagship site. It's captaincapitalism.blogspot.com. and you'll see the little links off to the top left, podcasts and all that. But if you want to check out, I have the Clarity podcast. That's on SoundCloud. You can find me on all the standard social media, Facebook and Twitter. Gab.ai, I'm on there too. That's kind of where all the conservative, ostracized, banished people from Twitter go. And then what else? Oh, yeah, all my books are on Amazon. And you can find my YouTube channel. Just search Aaron Clarey. It's AARONCLAREY.
All right. And hey, emails, kl@kerrylutz.com. That's kl@kerrylutz.com. Comments, feedback on this interview, any others that we do. Twitter is @KerryLutz. The Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. And if you want to get the podcast delivered right to your computer automatically, so you don't have to go searching for it, if you've got the iTunes application on your computer, which you do if you're a Mac user. If you're a PC user, you have to download it. If you don't have it already, you just go to itunes.com, and then you go to the iTunes store, type in Kerry Lutz or Financial Survival Network, and then you just click the subscribe button. Automatically comes to you. You click it, and you can hear it at your leisure, and it's that simple. So, Aaron, hey, I can't wait for the book to come out. I will definitely buy it right away, and it's always great speaking to you. We will talk to you again soon, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Gary. We'll catch you later.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.